There we go. All right. Let's double check that mic. We're going to get going here in just a second and go from there. So we are broadcasting live right now. Don't do anything you shouldn't do. Everybody turn around, wave hi right now. We can do that. There we go. Everybody knows we're live. And we're getting going in just a second here. So,
Tony, that sounded like a dare. You got to be careful with this stuff.
I'm just so happy to be back here live, and we have people here.
Yes.
So I know the last time, and I've missed you because you weren't here last time. I'm not going to go into the details where you were, somewhere warm and sunny in the middle of winter.
On a beach. I'm so sorry, but it was really nice. I didn't miss you that day, but I'm glad to be back.
Well, everybody else is glad to have you back too, because I was by myself here for the county race and all of that sort of stuff. So it's good. All right. Just checking the house. We are good to go? We're good there. Miss Karen, we're good to go. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our 22 candidate forum for our local election. This is usually our municipal and Frisco School Board election. This year it's a little bit different, as it's been different every time we get together, it seems like.
It always is, but this is good because we really get to focus in on the district-related issues tonight, and we get to do a little bit of a different format. So we actually have the 3 different races split, and we'll do them one at a time.
Exactly. So once again, this is for the May 7th municipal election, this time focusing just on the school board races. If you're here for a different race, sorry, but wrong room. Okay, we're good. For those that I don't know, I am Tony Felker, President and CEO of the Frisco Chamber of Commerce, and my moderator partner here.
Yes, I am Crystal Howard, and I'm the publisher of Community Impact Newspaper, and it's a privilege that we get to do this together because we are also very involved in the Chamber. I'm a past chair of the Chamber, and there's a lot that aligns between the two of us when it comes, the two entities, when it comes to political races and voting. We do not endorse candidates. We simply give you the facts and the information and tell you how to get to the polls, but not how to vote.
You had me worried there.
Because we feel like we inform you and then you make that choice, and the Chamber is the same way. So today, that is the spirit of the structure as well.
Informing, educating, and urging people to get out and do their duty to vote so we have more than a 3 or a 4% voter turnout. Also want to make special attention while they're not here right now because of a conflict, but the Frisco ISD Council of PTAs is always a great partner with us. They have been promoting this event and will be promoting the recorded event. So if you're not here and if you're not watching, I guess I'm talking to nobody then. If you know people who aren't here and aren't watching, let them know this will be available for replay and they can go ahead and watch it at that point in time.
Well, that goes to getting that voting percentage up, right? Share with a friend and pass it along after the event tonight.
All right. Do we want to start to get into the specifics?
Yes, let's do it. Because also I hear we're on a deadline. I'm used to deadlines, but this is a different kind of deadline tonight,
What's the deadline tonight?
You tell
Other
me.
than we're going to be out of here by 7:40 or 7:45, okay? Do we have any Maverick fans in the house? Any Star fans in the house? Online? We're going to get you there for opening tip-off and face-off. So, as we said, we're going to do place 1 first, the 2 candidates in place 1. We're going to do place 2 next. We have 3 candidates in that, and then we are going to do
place 3
with 3 candidates in place.
Trick question.
Format will be the same for all of the races. We'll have opening statements of 1 minute each. Every question that we ask will basically be a 1-minute response. We will have closing statements of 2 minutes each, and we have some challenge opportunities.
Yes, that's right. Not in the opening or closing statements, but in the meat of the forum, you can challenge your opponent once or twice?
We're going to do twice.
Twice tonight. Okay, a little different this time.
And so if you want to challenge somebody on something that they said, you have 30 seconds to issue your challenge, 30 seconds to respond to the challenge. And we have a great timekeeper here. Everybody please welcome Annika. She is from Liberty High School in political science class, and she is a repeat timekeeper for us because she did such a great job. So in each case, candidates, it'll just be a half and a half and a half. In 2 minutes, she'll raise the sign at 1 minute, then at 30 seconds, 15, and a stop. If you don't stop soon after the stop, the cowbell comes out. There we go.
In this case, more cowbell is not good. Hopefully we don't get to that point.
So,
okay.
Once again, place 1, we have 2 candidates in the race. That is Angela Dunford, Gopal Ponangi. Place 2, we have 3 candidates, Marvin B. Lowe, Natalie Hebert, and Karthik. And in place 3, 3 candidates in that race, Dustin Paschal, Timothy Soto, Stephanie Elad. Each of those is ballot order in case anybody asks. So we'll go from there.
Okay, and as we make our way to the table, I guess we'll let them know too that we're keeping something from the last time, and that is for the opening statements and closing statements. We are not going to decide that order. We have names on slips of paper here, so we'll draw it for your opening statement, and then we'll reverse it for the closing. Does that sound good?
We ready to get started? Everybody else up ready to get started? Put your hands together for our candidates. Let's go ahead and get this thing underway.
Okay, let's
All right.
see. Who's
You
going
want
first,
to
Tony?
Draw names, and let's see who will go first on their opening statement. Welcome, Angela Dunford, number 1 on the ballot in order, and Gopal Ponangi, our incumbent, is number 2 on the ballot there.
But we will be going reverse on the opening. Mr. Gopal, you are first with 1 minute for an opening statement.
Timekeeper ready.
Good evening, everyone. This is Gopal Panangi. I thank each and every one of you for giving me an opportunity to be your advocate. I've been the Board of Trustees for the last 3 years. I would like to focus on the learning laws and then the special education and entrepreneurial programs. These have been my passion, especially the special education and then entrepreneurial skills. And then I also have a nonprofit that provides scholarships to the outgoing students. I've been a resident of Frisco since last 18 years. My daughters are part of Frisco ISD, and then I'm very passionate about our school district. I think we are doing something very great. That is the reason we are adding 2,000 students every year, whereas other school districts are adding around 500 or something less. So I would like to continue on the same trajectory and ensure that I'll give my best so that our students and teachers and the community will get the best from me. Thank you.
Very good. Excellent job on timing. No pressure there. Ms. Dunford, you'd like to go next?
Okay. I'm Angela Dunford. I've got 3 boys in FISD. They're in 2nd, 4th, and 7th grade. I have a degree in microbiology. I've spent over 12 years doing drug development research in the lab for a pharmaceutical company. I've spent a ton of time volunteering. I've been a PTA volunteer for 8 years, and for the last 4 of those years, I've been a PTA officer on that board. I'm also in my 4th year on the SHAC right now, which is a district committee that deals with wellness. A lot of people know me as the person who advocated for a second recess in our elementary schools. So that was something that I did and was successful at getting that second recess, which is often called the Brain Break program now, at all 42 of our elementary campuses. So I'm passionate about student wellness and well-being because I believe that it's critical to creating a foundation for optimal academic learning, as well as for happiness and success in the future as an adult. I think our board is, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both for your opening statements, and we will dive right into the questions. As a reminder, you have the ability to challenge your opponent on their answer twice during this forum, so don't miss your opportunity. Just feel free to speak up and let us know, and then we will start the time on the challenge. So first question, workforce is a topic we talk about often at the Chamber, and it's been challenging across industries, but the last 2 years specifically for educators have been tough. What would you do to help our teachers and prevent more burnout and frustration and them leaving the profession? Ms. Dunford.
Yeah, I think that there's a contributing factor partly to the legislation, and we only have so much control over that. Hopefully we can lobby for some new things there. But there is a lot that we actually can do in our district to fix that, and we need to not just be so quick to dismiss it as somebody else's problem. It's our problem, and we need to do things about it. So some of the things I would do, I've talked to a lot of teachers, and they absolutely are overburdened. Here in Frisco ISD, I think we have an abnormally high amount of assessments that we require of the students, and that's more work for the teachers. We have an abnormally high amount of documentation that takes place online, a lot of meetings. So there's a lot of things that pull teachers away from teaching. And so we have to make sure right now more than ever that we are taking things off of teachers' plates wherever we can so that they can do what they love doing and what they're amazing at, which is teaching. I'd also love to see us create actually a teacher advisory committee that's exclusively volunteer teachers that want to be there because I think it's a safer environment where they feel safe actually expressing their feedback in an honest way without being afraid of retaliation or anything like that.
Okay, Mr. Panangi, same question.
As you all maybe know, it's called Great Resignation. But fortunately, our school district, we are at 12% whereas the state level and then the others are like 15, and then region 10 is around 15%. However, teachers are the essence of what we do at the school district. Because of them, we are excelling in whatever we are doing. What we have done initially is that in 2018 bond, we have increased from, added 1% more and then added 3% annual raise. Plus, we also do the, we also are giving the CARES stipend, and then, we also do the bonus every year, retention bonus. We also have included, because of the COVID and then mental health and situation, we also have included the wellness coordinator. So these are all what we have done, but I would like to continue to do more because, they are the essence, and then, we should need to ensure that, their well-being is taken care of. Just to rebut my opponent, we do the anonymous surveys too.
One of the things that comes up, and you guys both hinted at it, is assessments and accountability. A lot of that is driven by the state. We'll start with you and then come back over. What are your thoughts on terms of local control versus district control when it involves testing and accountability standards?
Most of the assessments and other things are all driven by the legislator and also the TEA. But I sort of love what the Frisco Chamber's legislative initiatives are also to, more local governance than governing the locals. I really like that. And then there has to be some flexibility for the school district so that, they are taking care of the assessments, and they're not just taking care of only one particular aspect, but the all-round development of a child. That is very, very important. We have started community-based accountability, and I would like to see that fruitified in the next few years so that, we are not just focused on one particular assessment, but looking at the overall growth of the student and the school, how it is performing.
Ms. Dunford?
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of teachers. One of them said to me, she said there's so many assessments in Frisco ISD that she feels like she's just barely finished a post-assessment with her students when it's time to start the next pre-assessment, and she's going, when in the world am I supposed to do the actual teaching of the material that we're assessing? One teacher that I spoke to, a different teacher, she was at Frisco ISD for several years in elementary school, and she just this last year moved to Prosper, okay? And I asked her, I said, well, is it the grass is greener on the other side kind of a thing, because sometimes, we always think it's gonna be better somewhere else, right? And she said, it's night and day. So that tells me it's not just a state thing. And I said, well, what about assessments? Talk to me about that. Do they do a bunch of assessments there in Prosper? She's like, yeah, we do. I said, well, what's the proportion compared to Frisco, would you say? She said, it's about half. So, yeah, there are assessments required by the state, but we have added a lot in our district that we don't have to. We need to take those away that are not necessary.
So follow-up question to that. When you speak about changing assessments, what would your take be on ensuring accountability when you change that?
I mean, so we're not saying take away all assessments, right? There are some that are required by the state, and I think that generally the number that are required by the state are adequate, right? When we're looking at assessments also, it's good to look at the types of assessments where this would be the type of assignment I would assign the kids anyways, where it's just a practice and it's like a standard worksheet, as opposed to something that isn't really helpful, especially at the beginning of the school year. You're testing them on stuff that they haven't learned yet, and you're spending a lot of time, and the students get stuck on this, oh, I don't know how to do this. And they're feeling bad about themselves even. It's like, well, you're not supposed to know that, and the teachers can tell them that, but I mean, the kids still internalize it a little differently. So let's do assessments that are actually productive. I think we could use a lot of teacher feedback on that, maybe on the committee that I suggested.
Great, thank you for the response. Mr. Panangi, what are your thoughts on current testing requirements and assessments and accountability?
As I said earlier, assessments are definitely required because that will help the teacher or the school district to understand where the particular student is and then take corrective actions. Without having that lack of them, it will not be very, very easy for the teacher to assess. For instance, if certain assessments are done upfront in the beginning of the year, then especially with the current situation of the learning loss that has happened because of the pandemic, then the teacher, will assess, for example, for a third grader, if they think that, there are certain lessons of the second grade have to be repeated, then, these assessments, initial assessments, will help them to ensure that, they are filling the learning loss.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask an individual question of each of you, and we're keeping track, so everybody's got the same number of questions. Ms. Dunford, you've been quoted as saying that, quote, one of the biggest issues facing FISD is distrust within the community. Do you have any specific examples of what you mean by that, and how would you propose fixing that?
Yeah, I actually do think that's probably one of our very biggest issues. I think our board is made up of a lot of really good people, but it seems like there's a disconnect between the board and the community sometimes, even the board and teachers sometimes. I think there's a lot of things that we can do as a board to fix that. One of the things that really is huge would be reinstating the full-time amount for public comment. So last year, the board took our public comment time in the standard board meetings. It used to be 5 minutes, and they reduced it down to just 1 or 2 minutes, right? That sends a very loud message to the community, regardless of how well-intentioned that is. Nobody else in the entire state of Texas did that, right? A lot of people had things happening at their board meetings last year. We were the only ones that did that and reduced the ability for people to address their board in that forum. And so I think that we have to be careful about those optics and being super transparent, making sure that we are just going overboard, saying we want and we're inviting your input in with surveys, with all kinds of things, just bringing parents in as much as possible.
If you don't mind, can I follow up, and then I'll give you an opportunity to respond to that?
Yeah.
And I don't know all the details, but from the outside, if you allow, I think it's a case of managing the time, and we have great input from our community. We want that. How would you manage the time if you've got 5 minutes and so many deals and still take care of business?
Right, and sometimes when there were a lot of speakers, we would reduce that to 3 minutes, and I think that's reasonable when needed, but down to 1 minute, I've tried multiple times to address the board in a board meeting with 60 seconds to speak, and it's kind of impossible to get a coherent thought out, right? So you can reduce a little bit perhaps when needed, but really we only have one board meeting a month, so if we're there kind of late that night, I mean, I think right now there's so much division in our community that it's worth it to just stay late, and let's just make sure people know we want to be here and we want to hear from them.
Yeah, good. Would you like to follow up on that, sir?
I would like to reboot what she has said. I do agree that we have reduced in number of minutes. However, we have added one special evening. Earlier, we used to go only once a month towards the school board meetings. Now we have one as community input meeting, which is next week. So in this meeting, we not only have speakers speak non-agenda items, but we also have the ISD available to respond. And then that will be documented, and then that will be put on the website. Other than that, there are various other avenues. The community can email us. They can, our phone numbers are there. They can contact us. They can reach out to their assistant principals or anything. I also, there was a recent issue about DECA. Somebody called me about it. Some of our students could not go. Then I immediately sprung up into the action, spoke to the superintendent. They in turn spoke to the DECA people, and then had our students be allowed to participate virtually. And then some of our students, as we speak, 5 of them are in Atlanta this week to participate. So community input, that one is not the only thing to connect with us.
Good. Thank you. Sorry, I dominated everything.
I would like to challenge that, if that's all right. I think that the community input night is a great idea in theory, honestly. I think it was well-intentioned. However, it doesn't work because, first of all, there's still that 1 to 2 minute time limit in that input meeting that is specifically designed only to have input, right? And it's still just a 1 or 2 minute time limit. If there's no other business going on, why have we not made that bigger so that people can actually speak? Another thing, it's at 5:15. You have to be there at 5:15 to be able to speak. A lot of people aren't even off work by that time. So it hasn't actually filled the gap that was missing when we took that time away from the main board meeting. So we just have to make sure that, once again, not just that we're doing things, but that it looks to the community like we actually want to hear from them. And so optics are important too.
So I'm just checking. We're new on the challenge thing, so is there an actual challenge on that, or more just an observation?
Oh, sorry, just challenging that was an adequate response to the issue there.
And then you'll have an opportunity to rebut
what she said. As I said earlier, community input is not the only way to communicate with the board or any of the leadership. One of the community input meetings, one of the members who wanted to speak, understanding that it will only take 2 minutes, they only have 2 minutes, they have sent an email to us in the morning, and then that was addressed to the ISD, and then they worked during the day, and then by the time the community input meeting happened on that day evening, this was resolved. So the person used out of the 2 minutes only 1 minute to thank us for taking the action very quickly. So the number of minutes is not a criteria for anybody to say that the community is not, the leadership is not listening.
Just as a reminder on challenges that if we can, we're going to keep those to 30 seconds each
Okay,
way.
can I
But
provide just a quick response to that? Under 30 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. One of the things I did after only getting to speak for 1 minute at a board meeting is that I did email the remainder of my remarks to the full board, and I put in the very first line, please respond acknowledging receipt so that I know that you've seen my email. So they actually didn't even have to read the whole thing, and I made it very clear, I'm checking to see who has actually read my email, just respond, and I heard from 2 board members. So that's not, I'm not saying that nobody ever reads their emails, but that just told me that's not an adequate substitute for being heard in the main board meeting. It's just not.
Very good. All right.
Can I?
30-second follow-up, and then we're moving on to the next question.
A non-response for a particular email should not be considered. There's no transparency in the school district. This website will have all the information. The channels of communication are open from this school level to the district leadership level.
Very good.
Thank you. Okay, so we asked you a specific question. Ms. Dunford will ask you a specific question as well, Mr. Panangi. Having served on the Board of Trustees for 3 years, is there anything that, I don't know if regret's the right word, but anything you would do different in retrospect? And then what is one thing you're very proud of? One of each.
One thing that I'm very proud of is that, as soon as I became a trustee, within about 9 months, we had the pandemic. And then during the spring break in the March 2020, when most of people were either taking vacation or figuring out how the pandemic will impact, the leadership and then the teachers, we worked during that break and then made sure that virtual learning is available, which was unprecedented in any other school district. We just took a 1 day off and then, we started off. So that is something that I'm very, very proud of. And as far as, what is my, what could I do, what is my regret, right? I would like to serve more. I'm completely passionate about giving more and more of myself. So had it been, 6 years or, more, I would like to give more about myself. Another thing that I'm very happy is about adding cricket as one of the things. And then we added a lot of new programs like, in Kate Center, we added cyber security, esports, and then we added National Navy, a Defense Cadet Corps, so many other things we have been adding.
I think Ms. Dunford has the right to respond because we had him. So if you'd like to respond to any of that as well. All right? All right. I'd like to jump in here, and I don't know who all the different endorsements that you do have, but one that came out in this particular race was by the Dallas Morning News that endorsed Mr. Panangi. Mr. Panangi, with that as an endorsee, what is it that you feel about that endorsement that you'd like to promote the most, and then we'll have you be able to respond as well.
The endorsement speaks about what I have done and then what my background is. So what I have done in the last 3 years and then how I became a board of trustee. I became a board of trustee by being part of the Programs and Facilities Evaluation Committee, Long Range Planning Committee, by being a nonprofit founder, and then providing scholarships to the students and all. So that speaks a lot. And then based on my work, not only the Dallas Morning News, but the mayor of city of Frisco, and then the state representative Matt Shaheen, and then so many others have endorsed me. I feel very good about it. It sort of gives me more power or more encouragement to give more of myself back to the community, and then see our teachers and then our students are well taken care of, and then they are given more and more opportunities so that they'll blossom in the future they are creating for themselves.
Very good. Ms. Dunford, do you believe that in the Dallas Morning News endorsing your opponent, was there anything that they overlooked or that you'd like to bring to their attention?
Well, I just noticed that I think that they probably were a little torn on it. I noticed in the article that 4 separate times they provided a criticism or a recommendation of something that they thought Gopal needed to change. And they provided 0 criticisms of me and anything that I said or anything that I've done or my platform or anything. So I thought that was interesting that he still ended up with the endorsement. I recognize he's done a lot of good things, but something that came out of that article that was very clear, that was the Dallas Morning News opinion, was that there is a disconnect, and that's what I've been talking about, and that they need to start listening and doing things differently than they've done. Even if they think, well, gosh, we've done this, we've done the community input night, we've done this and that, it's not working. We got to start listening to the community and see, what does the community want? Let's go with that.
So over the last couple years, a number of issues that have been challenging for the district, and I think some would say are political or have been politicized, have moved into the schools discussion. Everything from mask mandates, recently books, the list goes on. What, in your view, is the role of Frisco ISD as it relates to our students in these issues? And which of these issues would you be passionate about tackling, and how? Ms. Dunford.
Yeah, I think that first and foremost, your responsibility is to listen to all constituents and to genuinely listen. And when I say that, it also means that we don't automatically default to defense of whatever it is that we're doing. That, hey, we're doing everything great, or it's somebody else's fault, it's not our fault. We don't mess up because we're Frisco ISD. Frisco ISD is amazing. Like, everyone acknowledges that, right? There's a lot of things we're doing right. There's so much good stuff going on in our district. I love it. But there are things that we mess up. And we have to, first of all, be willing to apologize when we've messed up, and we need to listen to varying points of views. And I feel like that's something I'm actually really good at, is being able to sit in the middle and put my stuff on a shelf for a second and really try to step into that parent or that taxpayer's perspective and say, where are they coming from here? What's their background? What are they seeing? And can I, for a second, view the world through that lens? And if I can do that, I'm going to be much more capable of making a better decision. And I have to do that on both sides, right? Because you work for everybody when you're elected.
Mr. Panangi, same question.
So student-centric, teacher-centric decisions with deep connection with the community is what I would like to work on. And then our board has done that too. For instance, one of the things that was very, very important was, all the opportunities that we have created for the students. Plus also we took care of the teachers with some of the bonuses and stipends. And at the same time, we are also listening to the community. We are not very arrogant and then saying that we are not taking any input. For instance, in yesterday's board meeting, we have taken the input about the books that are happening, and then we have put some processes in place. And then is that the final thing? No, we continuously tweak and then make sure that we are working to ensure that we are giving our best back to the community. We have a responsibility. We are there because of the community. The parents from other school districts are moving to us because we are doing something good. That is the reason we are adding 2,000 students or more. So we continue to be connected with the community and then ensure that we are giving our best, and decisions are focused on the opportunities for the students and taking care of the wellness of the teachers.
Good. Ms. Dunford, as opposed to an open race that there is another place, this actually has an incumbent in place. Right. You, for a lack of a better way of putting it, are telling the voters, fire this board of trustee and put yourself in instead. How would you justify that argument for the voters? And then we'll give you an opportunity to respond as to why you should stay. Ms. Dunford.
Generally, I think that it's always good for there to be a choice for voters, regardless. And so I noticed that there were 3 people running in each of the other seats already. We had lots of different options to choose from. And nobody was challenging Mr. Gopal. And I thought I wanted to make sure that every voter is able to exercise that right to make a choice. And so I put myself in on that spot. And I think that it's just time for some fresh perspective. He was one of the people that did not reply to my email. He was very quick to reply when he was running his campaign 3 years ago when I was busy advocating for recess, and he was very much in favor of it. And I said, that's awesome, you've got my vote. I actually voted for him. But since that time, in the last 3 years, I haven't gotten a single reply on any of my emails from him. So I think he's a good guy, and I know that lots of other people have not had that experience, okay? So I want to make that clear. I don't think he's terrible. That just happened to be my experience, and that raised a bit of a question for me.
Mr. Panangi, as to why should you tell the voters why they should keep you in place?
I've not been a candidate who has showed up for the 2019 election and then showing up again now. I've been continuously connected with the community, continuously working with the community. For instance, I've just told you an example of how I acted on the DECA. So there are so many instances I've been continuously connecting with the community and then doing my best. So that is the reason. And then I'm very passionate about serving our community, keeping that in view. I'm continuing to focus or rededicate myself to our school district. That is the reason I'm running again.
Thank you. So now, in the interest of time, we would like to give each of you the opportunity to ask your opponent a question. So we will start with you, Mr. Panangi. What question would you like to ask Ms. Dunford?
Thanks for voting for me last time.
You're welcome.
So my question is, I'm glad that you're coming forward to advocate for our teachers, our students, and for our community. And you will also be advocating us, you'll be representing us when you meet our state legislators and other things too. So you have to be very positive about what our district is doing. So what are the two things that you think our district is doing very well that you will share with the community as our advocate?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And I love having the chance to talk about the positive stuff because we do get a lot of questions that focus on the criticisms, right? So two of the things that I think we have done just incredibly well, I think we do an absolutely killer job on making sure our kids have lots of exposure to the performing arts starting at a very young age. So, we have choir for 4th and 5th graders. We got Meet the Instrument Night for kids going into band into middle school, where it really builds that program. I think that's at a lot of our middle schools that they do that for the 5th graders coming in. The band programs and the middle school level, it's just, it's amazing. It is so much better than anything we had when I was a kid. And then that continues once you get into high school. So I think we do really, really well with the performing arts and theater included in that, giving our kids lots of amazing opportunities for that. The other thing I think we do really well is that we have a lot of really innovative programs at the high school level that give kids real life experience. So we've got the Incubator EDU that gives them that entrepreneurial experience. We've got the CTE Center that gives them exposure to a lot of different fields, and even the, okay, there you go.
You could go on and on with
I could
positive.
go on and
Okay.
on. Absolutely.
Well, and now it is your turn to ask Mr. Panangi a question.
Sure. I would like to know what is something that you uniquely brought to the table during your time that wasn't brought up by anybody else, so not necessarily something that you helped with, because obviously as a board you work on as a team on a lot of things, but what's a new idea that you brought to the table that you feel has made a really big difference for the students?
Thanks for asking that. So I've been very passionate about serving the community, because of which I became a trustee. But one thing that I bring to the table is the diversity. I was the first person of color to be elected in the Frisco School District. So based on my background, I bring certain values and certain positions about my background. And another thing that I am very proud of is that introduction of cricket as a sport in our middle schools. We just had an opportunity to work with our leadership, provide them what the sport is about, tell what a batting or pitching or everything is, or bowling, we call it. And then, making sure that, we have a training program available. Again, we just started off as an indoor sport, but, very soon I would like it to be exposed to be an outdoor sport, and also have it available in high school and also in middle, or maybe, 3rd or 4th grade or 5th grade in the elementary school. So I'm very proud about that.
Very good. Thank you both. Great job on the time. And hopefully, if I didn't take your closing arguments away from you with the Dallas or the keep or not keep, we'll now go to closing arguments. And Ms. Dunford, you are up first on closing arguments. Once again, this will be 2 minutes, and then Mr. Panangi.
All right, so we need somebody right now who can provide a fresh perspective on our board, someone who knows what parents are feeling and can address a lot of the issues in a new way. We need somebody who sees that so many of our teachers truly are crumbling inside, and who's willing to acknowledge that there are things that our district can do about it, and that it's not just somebody else's job, and we're not going to put 100% of the blame on parents or on legislators. We need somebody who sees that some of the things we're doing, like putting kids on a screen for several hours a day, especially at the secondary level, aren't actually good for them. And it's not necessarily helping them learn their best, and it's not feeding their natural developmental needs. We need somebody who understands the balance between making sure kids learn the standards while also making sure that they can actually function in the real world when they go off to college and careers, because they're incentivized to show up to class prepared to take that test and to turn in their assignments on time, and we've kind of gotten away from that. Yes, right now there's a lot of division in our community. We see that a lot. So we need somebody who's capable of actually bringing the community together and healing some of the division. So we need someone who's willing to listen to all concerns on all sides with sincerity and with empathy. We need someone who's willing to apologize to the public when our district messes up, and that has happened recently, right? But an actual apology, I think, goes a long way in healing some of that hurt and that division. We need someone who's who knows how to make parents feel welcome and like they have a seat at the table, not just that they're tolerated. So when we do things like cut the public comments time, or when we present rezoning changes with only one option and don't actually send out a survey to ask people what their opinion is on a few options, it does the opposite. So we can't have those things happening anymore. We need to bring our community together, do an honest reflection of the areas we have to own and improve upon, and then roll up our sleeves and get to work. And that's something I'm willing to do. I'm willing to be a leader who listens, and I'm a proven advocate for students.
Thank you very much. Right on time. Closing arguments, once again, 2 minutes.
Thanks for telling about some of my qualities while you were telling. So I've been in Frisco School District for the last 18 years. My kids have been part of Frisco School District. I've been part of several committees before I became part of the school board member in 2019. I've been, very actively connected with the city because the partnership with the city is very, very important, because of which we have our opportunities for our kids in STAR, Comerica Center, and then now in PGA. And then my relationship with the Frisco City is pretty strong. I have the endorsement from our mayor and then other council members, John Keating, who's here. And the relationship with the state legislators is very, very important too. I'm very closely connected with Mr. Shaheen, Mr. Holland, and then, even when the virtual learning bills were happening, I was also texting Mr. Patterson. So that relationship is very important, which I bring. Plus, another very important thing is, I'm passionate about giving back to the community. So I've been doing that since the last 2 years. I'm not a candidate who just listens. I'm a candidate who listens and then takes action. One of the example was the DECA. Also, during the rezoning situation, I was the candidate who has visited several communities and then took it back to the leadership and then found certain solutions and then worked on it. Plus, I am also very passionate about entrepreneurial programs, the incubator EDU that you have mentioned, the ISM and then the YEA. So these programs are very, very important because, the students are good, maybe good academically, sports or fine arts, but, we need to bring an all-round future readiness to them. So I'm very passionate about them, and then I'll work on them. Also work on reducing the learning loss and then the mental health. These are some of the tactical things that we need to really work on based on what happened in the last 2 years. And then another thing that has been closer to my heart when I was here and then spoke in 2019 is the special education. That that group is very important, and I'll continue to focus on them. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you too very much. It takes a lot to be willing to serve your community. And ladies and gentlemen, in place one, these are your two candidates, and we urge you to go out and vote for one of them. And hopefully this year, we won't have any runoffs in this race. Do not tie each other, okay? Please. So, ladies and gentlemen, please thank the folks from place one. We're going to bring up place two at this point in time, switch out cards and waters, and we're going to do a very quick 1 or 2 minute switch over here. Hebert. Ms. Karthik. Good evening. How's everybody doing?
Good. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Glad you guys are here. Mr. Lowe, you're right over here. In order of balance. Very good. All right, we will go over the rules and kind of just jump right into this.
Okay.
All right, thank you everybody for a very nice transition there. I also want to say thanks to our timekeeper. Great job on that. So candidates place 2, we have our timekeeper over here. That is Anika. That's who you want to be paying attention to. And basically, just to review very quickly, in case you have not heard or been told, everybody will have opening statements of 1 minute. Your timekeeper, in all cases, will do a half, and half. So on the 1 minute questions, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and stop. Your closing statements will be 2 minutes. Once again, you'll get notice at 1 minute, 30 seconds, 15 seconds. You will have 2 challenges that you can use. These will be that you can challenge your opponent, one of your opponents, on something that they said. You will have 30 seconds to challenge and ask a question. Whichever opponent you address that to, I got to get used to 3 candidates up here, not 2. Whoever you address that challenge to, they will then have 30 seconds to respond as well. All the other responses will be 1 minute.
Use it or lose it situations. So
And not in the opening statement or the closing statement. So in the regular questions go along, you'll have up to 2 chances to ask an opponent a challenge or to challenge them on something. Any questions on those? All right, ladies and gentlemen, in order of the ballot, here are your candidates for place 2, Marvin Lowe, Natalie Hebert, who is your incumbent, and Kelly Karthik, and going from there. So we're going to go right into opening statements. The way we do this is a very complicated process where we draw names. And then we will go in as much of a reverse order as we can on closing statements. So leading us off on a 1 minute opening statement will be
Natalie Hebert.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. Thank y'all for being here, first of all. Thank you, Chamber of Commerce. My name is Natalie Hebert, and I have been a resident of the Frisco ISD community for the past 18 years with my awesome husband, Joshua Hebert, and our 2 kids, Cole and Claire. We have a senior and a sophomore, both at Liberty High School. Cole's headed to OU next year, and he is beyond prepared. Thank you to all of the amazing teachers and staff here in Frisco. Frisco ISD is a destination district. We are recognized across the state for excellence, no matter your child's ambitions, whether they're an athlete, an artist, a doctor, an entrepreneur, an academic scholar, or a skilled technician. Frisco ISD can help all of our kids achieve success. Even our special needs kids, whenever they leave with the ability to go out into the workforce and be as successful as possible. We outperform the region, the state, and every other comparable district, despite the pandemic. People who do their homework move to Frisco.
Next.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Kelly Karthik.
Okay, I'm testing the mic. Yes, it does work. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kelly Karthik, and I just wanted to take a moment and thank the Frisco Chamber of Commerce and the Frisco ISD Council of PTAs and Grace Chruch for hosting this candidate forum this evening. I've been married for 18 years to my husband, Vijay, who's there in the back, and we moved to Frisco in 2015. We have twin 16-year-old boys that attend Reedy High School. I'm the president and chief people and growth officer at a technology consulting company, and I specialize as a culture coach in the tech sector. My 3 main campaign platform points are teachers, technology, and transparency. You'll hear more about that shortly. And encompassing these 3 points, my greatest passion of all is equity, diversity, and inclusion. Thank you.
I bet I know who's going next.
All right, Mr. Lowe, you get 1 minute for your opening statement.
I didn't see you draw for my name. Oh, okay.
Told you it was complicated.
On this very scientific ripped up paper. We've got
I understand. Hey, my name is Marvin Lowe. I'm a Frisco resident. I've been here since 2007. I've been in Texas since '97. I'm from California originally. Don't hold that against me. I got here as soon as I could. I'm the proud father. I have 4 kids, 17, 13, 12, and 10. And one of the reasons I got involved in this race is because we came here for the school district, and we still have a good school district, but I believe it's on the wrong trajectory, and I'm running to get it back to where we once were. to be better, more than window dressing, but to be a real excellent school district in what we do and how we teach and how we listen to our parents.
Good. All right. Well, let's kick things open, and we'll just follow up just by chance. Trust and communication seems to be an ongoing issue that's involved in a lot of the discussion in this year's races. We'll start with Ms. Hebert, go to Ms. Karthik, and then back to Ms. Lowe. What would you address in terms of trust and communication? Are there any specific issues that you can address that illustrate that point or that counter that point, that is an issue in our district at this point in time?
I think that we are a work in progress whenever it comes to communication. We've started the efforts with our long-range planning committee, our priorities-based budget committee, and our community input night. We're not perfect yet, but we are working towards that. And we know that there will always be areas of improvement, and I do believe that communication is one of them. But as we have gone through the past few years, there have been a lot of things on the school district's plate to maintain our successes, and we try to communicate as well as possible, but we are working on getting better.
Okay, good. Ms. Karthik.
So with trust and communication, I feel like that falls under transparency, which seems to be an issue with the school board. And I think the biggest frustration I hear from a lot of parents is trying to we have unanswered emails, unanswered phone calls, attempts for meetings sometimes aren't recognized. It feels like the door's closing a little bit at school board meetings now that we've removed the non-agenda items and we've shifted them to a community input night. And this is something I'm very concerned about. I feel like we should rethink about what we're doing right there. So again, trust and communication fall under transparency, and I think one of the things when you're a trustee is you need to listen to your community members and what they are thinking and feeling and concerned about. That's really important to me. Thank you.
And Mr. Lowe.
Yeah, when we talk about trust and transparency, that's one of the communication. That's one of the reasons I'm here. I didn't plan on running 7 months ago. I had no idea I'd be here. But I contacted our school board to find out what they thought about critical race theory, and I couldn't get a straight answer from any of them. I was just wondering, what are your personal thoughts? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And I asked those specific questions, and I couldn't get an answer. And that's one of the things that led me to run. But after I got into it, I just started seeing that the district or some of the members on the board seem to do what they want to do. They seem to be the smartest people on the block, and they figure out what they're going to do, and then they tell us what they do rather than talking to the parents and figuring out, collaborating with us and figuring out what direction we're going to go on many of these controversial issues.
And we have our first challenge of the night. So you may challenge 30 seconds to ask a question, and I'm presuming you're challenging Mr. Lowe?
Mr. Lowe, yes.
Yes.
You emailed me on October 6th of 2021 with a very specific question and said that you were a voter, and that was one of your main issues with voting. And I gave you a very specific response a few hours later.
What was that response?
What was that response, Mr. Lowe?
I'm asking you. You should know. You're telling me.
My response to him was that I do not believe in uplifting any specific group of any
But that wasn't
race.
my question.
The question was about CRT.
The question was, what do you think about CRT?
I think that it is not taught within the K-12 classroom, period.
You have a couple of seconds left. Go on.
This is one of the pat answers that we get from, from so many people in the district. Just for the record, CRT is a college course that is taught in college. It's not taught in our school district. What I am talking about is, what do you think about it? Because our education, our curriculum is being influenced by CRT. And so because of that, I wanted to know what our board was thinking so I know how to vote.
All right. Thank you. Remember 30 seconds on the challenge. I love the enthusiasm, but let's kind of keep it in order here. I'm going to let you pull us back into order now.
Yeah, those have been hard. We didn't do well on the first one either. So the spirit behind them is that instead of debate style, it should be a 30-second challenge and then a 30-second response, some sort of question involved, just to keep it together. Okay, so let's take it to the last couple of years and the challenges. many of them that our teachers have faced in the school district. What are your thoughts on how the board can help ensure that teachers do not get burned out and that we can retain them and keep good tenure in our school district?
And if anybody in particular you want to start off?
Yes, let's actually go from right to left. Ms. Karthik.
Regarding the teachers, that is my number one concern. I have a whole list of ideas of what we can do to help them out. I think the big thing is the communication is not there. I would love to open up some kind of portal where they can submit anonymous and confidential feedback on what the real issues are, and also their expertise on how to better solve those issues. Some of the things we all know about are smaller classrooms, possibly an aid, better funded classrooms. Some of the ideas I'm hearing about are, how about tuition reimbursement? What about more days off for bereavement? There's a whole list of things we can do to make their lives a little better, and I would really like to hear, though, from them directly and what they think the solutions are so we can make them happier. Thank you.
Sabra?
Number one is partisan politics. We've got to get partisan politics out of the classroom. 100%. Educators are exhausted. They are being slammed with legislation from the federal level and from the state level. We have to find a way to make sure that we can ease up their plate, lighten the load for them, and still maintain the excellence that we have here in Frisco. But a lot of it comes from legislation, and it's trying to maintain all of the things that come with it, such as we put dyslexia and special education together. That was unexpected for our staff, and it's a stressor, but they took it as a gift, and they're running with it. Yet it's just one more thing that they're doing on top of COVID, on top of COVID relief, on top of closing the gaps. We've got to help them, not necessarily with money, but by creating a culture of respect and showing them that we truly care about them, not by just using words, but by actions.
Mr. Lowe.
Yeah, when you look at the fact that we've lost 1,600 teachers over the last 3 years, we have to look at it and say we're doing something wrong. We can't just say, everything's okay here, we're all doing okay, nothing to see here. There is a problem. And the problem is the federal, the state, and the local burden that we're putting on them. What we would do is we would take it off, but our board has accepted ESSER funds, for instance. And with those funds comes different mandates, different assessments, and different things that they have to do in order to comply with getting those ESSER funds. And I just believe that we need to look at things like that when they're already overburdened. Why add something else? We need to make it easier on our teachers. Our teachers didn't get in teaching to do paperwork. They got in teaching to teach our kids. Our teachers love our kids, and they're passionate about what they do. But when we load all of these extra burdens on them, and we don't have a board that seems like they understand that they need to take these burdens off of the teachers, we get where we are right now.
Good. And I'd like to, and when we do follow-up questions, I keep the scores so everybody will have the same number. Ms. Karthik, I'd like to follow up on something you mentioned. A lot of the options that you were proposing to help teachers, a lot of those cost money, personnel and other deals. Given the fact, if you agree that the school district is running a good fiscal budget at this point in time, what would you cut, or how do you have any ideas about how to fund those additional dollars that would be needed?
I think there's a lot of ideas that don't cost anything. I mean, for example, our teachers work long days, and there's a heavy pressure on them to sponsor after-school clubs that are created. One solution would be, how about we start vetting and do background checks on some of our expert parents out here in the community and let them start sponsoring some of these clubs. There's a lot of kids out there that are feeling the frustration of the clubs not being there, that they want to be there and can't find a teacher that has the energy or the time to sponsor. So that would be a really good example of something we can do that doesn't cost 1 cent, and we're taking some of the pressure and strain off of these teachers. Like he said, we don't need to add one more thing to their plate, and this is one way we can help them. Let's utilize our parents to make these clubs happen for our children.
Good. Ms. Hebert, I'd like to follow up with specific. You mentioned you're a big supporter of the community-based accountability system. Could you give a little discussion on where that is in terms of obstacles in implementing, and why are you such a strong proponent of that?
Our first major obstacle of implementing CBAS, or community-based accountability system, was COVID. So right in the middle of beginning to implement that, we got hit with the pandemic. We're back and have it up and running, but I'm a big proponent of it because it allows each individual campus to come up with their own individual goals for the year. And those goals are, they're fluid. And so as they meet what they need, they continue on to the next one. Instead of having a goal across the state, which is what most people do, they take those and then take them and use them across the district. We have 73 campuses. They're not all the same. We don't expect them to all be the same, so they all come with different needs. Parents have input, teachers have input, students have input. It is the community of each individual school coming up with those goals, and it is taking what that school needs and making it happen.
And Mr. Lowe, you've been quoted as saying you're a big proponent of using technology earlier in the K through 12. Can you describe some specific areas that you would implement more technology, and why has that not been implemented to date, if you have an idea?
I never said that. I don't know where that came from.
All right. My apologies on that.
Oh, no problem.
Let me see.
Actually, I think that's something that I said, just to clear the record.
All right. Let's just discuss a little bit more. You had mentioned, or has been mentioned, the policy disallowing non-agenda items. Would you like to expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah. The board has an important job, and I was at a forum, earlier forum, with my opponent, and we were all asked, who do you represent? Do you represent the district, or do you represent the voters, the community? And my opponent couldn't answer that question. I doubt if she could answer it right now because she believes that she doesn't know who she represents. Well, when I'm on the board, I represent the voters. The voters put me in office will put me in office to manage what the board is, what the district is doing. And it's very clear. Right now, we have a community that doesn't feel like they're being heard. Their voices are not heard. Yesterday, we had they had a board meeting, and nobody got to voice their opinion on a very controversial issue that's happening at this time. And when the community doesn't feel like they have a voice in what we're doing, it messes up things, what we're doing. Thank you.
So school finance and accountability standards have long been hot topics in school board elections and public education. What are your views on local control versus state control on these issues, and some specific areas that you would like to see changed? Mr. Lowe.
Boy, that's a good question. I'm all about local. I think that we have a great community that we live in. I think we're able to make our own decisions about how our schools should be run. We are different than New York. We're different than Houston. We're different than Dallas. So I think we should run our district based on our own standards. We shouldn't get cues from TASB or NASB. They do things different than we do here in Texas. I think the closer we stick to local politics, local policies, and address the needs that are in our local community, I think we will better serve the citizens of our community.
Ms. Hebert.
First of all, I could answer the question at the forum. It was a raise your hand, and I said I represent the students, the community, and the school district. But regarding the question as far as finance, I love the legislative action items that the Chamber of Commerce has. That includes pushing to make sure that we can get HB3 fully funded. We also need to push for getting our IDEA fully funded because they're only funding it at 15%, and there was a promise from the federal government that it would be at 40%, and that is how we educate our special education students.
Thank you. Ms. Karthik?
Yes, I'm also a proponent of local control, and I'm also a supporter of HD3. I don't have a long, elaborate answer for this particular question. That's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Hebert, among many endorsements that all three of you may have, the Dallas Morning News did endorse you in this particular place. How would you describe this to the voters as to why you believe Dallas Morning News endorsed you? And then I'll send a follow-up to the other two candidates as well.
I think part of it is I've been in education for over 20 years. I'm a teacher. I bring my views from the classroom and my experience from the classroom to the boardroom, which is a unique quality. We have 2 educators on the board at this time. Thank you, Ms. Davis, for also being a part of our school board and being an educator with me. But I am the only teacher from Frisco ISD that's taught in this district. And I think it's pertinent that the information and the background knowledge and the voices of friends and family and people here in Frisco, I think that's important. I also think that I've done a good job of making sure that if there's a concern, I respond to the concern. I know that some friends up here have stated otherwise, but as soon as I got Mr. Lowe's email, there was a response. And Ms. Karthik, there were 1,000 emails that came through. There was a response from the school district. I communicate, and I'm a teacher.
Very good. Ms. Karthik, do you believe that the Dallas Morning News may have overlooked something, or how would you have responded to that endorsement?
Number one, I'm not sure about 1,000 emails. I've never sent 1,000 emails. And number two, as far as the Dallas Morning News is concerned, they actually printed a correction in their editorial section regarding a comment and they made about me, and I've had several apology letters that they did not fact check, and they did not use my actual comments in their endorsement process. So I can't really say much about that, but I do feel vindicated that they did correct themselves. Thank you.
Thanks for that clarification. Mr. Lowe, same follow-up question for you.
Yeah, the 3 of us participated in a forum with the Dallas Morning News, and I'm going to tell you that's the first time I was really scared. I thought I did really well in that forum, and I thought they would endorse me. And then they endorsed my opponent, and I was so happy because you know something? We're Frisco. We're not Dallas. We do things different in Frisco than Dallas. How many people are here because of the Frisco ISD and not because of Dallas? And so the bottom line, I think they endorse the person who's going to best represent Dallas Independent School District.
All right, we are now to the point where you get the opportunity to ask one of your opponents a question. And the way this will work timing-wise is you have 30 seconds. Goodness, we would never make it. 30 seconds for your question, and your opponent will get 1 minute for the response. So, Mr. Lowe, we'll start here and go in reverse.
No
one
problem.
Of your opponents.
Okay. This is to Natalie. Surprise, surprise, huh? There's been a lot of discussion about the inappropriate material in schools. And it's not something that has just creeped up lately. It's something that has been there. We still have that problem where we're still finding books in schools that are inappropriate. What have you done to change these illicit books in our school? What have you done?
We discovered that the issue is with the publisher and the reviews. Our librarians get 15,000 books whenever they open up a school library. It is impossible for one human being to be able to read 15,000 books before they place them on the shelves. So they do rely on the publisher's review of those books. We have discovered that there is a specific publisher that has aged books at something that does not meet the standard of Frisco ISD. We have decided not to use that publisher any longer. We've also implemented plans to look at policy, and we have also created a plan. If you were at the board meeting last night, were you there?
Were you there?
I was not. I had a prior engagement.
No, something more important than the books in our schools, huh?
So this is my response. I'm sorry?
No, go on.
Okay, thank you. I lost my train of thought. So yes, we are hiring people. We have policy in place. I was on all of the subcommittees prior to that to make sure that things happened. As soon as I was made aware of the books on the shelf, I immediately contacted the people who could take care of it, and immediate action was taken. Immediate. So when somebody says that we did not take immediate action, they are not telling you the truth. Fact over fiction.
Okay, so
We're good.
no
We're
response.
good. We're going to move on to, yes.
So Ms. Hebert, you now get to ask a question. You have 30 seconds to state the question, 1 minute for the response.
Okay. Because there are two opponents, it's not just you and me, Ms. Karthik. In the Dallas Morning News, you did state that when you were asked about whether you had ever been in a civil lawsuit, you are part of a civil lawsuit, a federal civil lawsuit against the school district. And you were asking to be a representative to oversee a $700 million budget in this school district. Yet on the Dallas Morning News, when that question was asked of you, you said no. Please explain.
Thank you. So I took that question very seriously. It asked me if I was ever involved if I'm currently involved or was ever involved in a civil lawsuit. And my understanding after talking to a couple of advisors was that a federal class action lawsuit was not the same as a civil lawsuit. I weighed that question heavily, and that was my understanding. They're trying to hide a class action federal lawsuit would be like trying to hide a cruise ship in plain sight when I'm running for school board. That makes zero sense. I answered that question to the best of my ability, and I was honest, and I was upfront, and it's nothing I'm trying to hide by any means. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Karthik, your turn. 30 seconds for the question, 1 minute for the response.
Sure, thank you. Let me turn this back on. Can you hear me now?
There you go. Got it.
Okay. My first question is for Natalie. Dr. Nikki Mouton was hired as our equity, diversity, and inclusion strategist back in November of 2020. And I would like to know, in the past 6 months, how often have you actually met with Dr. Mouton regarding planning and implementing programs that enhance the equity and diversity inclusion in all of our schools?
Well, I have sat in on several of the meetings with Dr. Mouton and the subcommittee meetings, and also she's presented to us at board workshops to help us better understand what the goals are and where we're going with the district. And we have had several opportunities to discuss how we are including all of the students within Frisco ISD, regardless of race, gender, political affiliation. We've met with her several times. There's not a definitive answer to that, so I don't know, a lot.
Very good. Thank you. We do ask the audience to keep your comments to yourselves. We're now going to be at closing statements, and we will go in reverse order. Mr. Lowe, you have 2 minutes now for your closing statements. We will then go to Ms. Karthik and Ms. Hebert. Sir?
Yeah, thank you for hosting this, this forum. We live in a great city, and we have a great school district. But we have a school district that is veered a little bit off course. And it's not going to take a lot to correct it. It's going to take board members who's willing to stand up to the administration and represent the views of their citizens and to the district. The district oftentimes gets its cues from, again, TASB and NASB, groups that are just not local, groups that are out of state, and they get ideas from them to implement in our city. I believe we should keep the policy decisions to our community. I think we're bright enough to figure out what we need for our schools. The parents are smart enough to figure out what we need. We don't need to get our cues from outside of here, outside the district. I think we really need to improve teacher retention. One of the ways I propose to do this is, it's really not rocket science, it's lifting the administrative burden off of them, lifting it, figure out what we need to do that. I mean, we've been losing teachers for several years now. Why haven't we come up with a solution to do that? If it takes more money, pay our teachers better. If it takes lifting the burden, we want to do that. We need to have high standards across the board. One of the things we talked about, Natalie talked about, was the autonomy of all of these schools. Did you know that in testing, that all of our schools test different? In one school, you could take it, might be able to take a test one time. Another school, you could take it multiple times. But all of the schools, all of the grades are all the same. It's not equity. It's not equitable. I just really hope that we'll look at who's running for the race. We'll see who really cares about the community, and we'll vote accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Karthik?
There we go. In closing, I would just like to say that I am a community organizer. I'm an advocate for children and families. I attend and speak at school board meetings, county commissioner court, city council meetings. I attend those as much as I can. But separately, and behind the scenes, I meet often with community and religious leaders to discuss the ways that we can bring our diverse community closer together. This ultimately benefits the education of our children when we are more united. Again, I mentioned in the beginning that my 3 main points are teachers, technology, and transparency. As your Board of Trustee, I look forward to becoming that liaison that I just spoke about that is building the bridge between the students and the families and the teachers and the staff with the FISD. My biggest strength is my ability to connect with other students and families from all different backgrounds. This is what I'm most passionate about. And I think that if I'm your Board of Trustees, I'm going to bring that extra diversity we need to the forefront and create better communication bridges across the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Hebert.
First of all, I want to say thank you to all of our staff and our teachers, because although there are fictional ideas that we're a district in decline, we are not. Of 16,000 kids nationwide, 109 of those kids are from Frisco ISD. We have a 99.4% graduation rate. That's pretty amazing, especially during the time of a pandemic. Our staff, our teachers, work relentlessly to make sure that, from my opening statement, we are that district that is recognized across the state for excellence, whether it be academics, whether it be fine arts, whether it be Special Olympics. Anything our kids do, we do well. When there's something that needs to be improved upon, we make sure it happens. We know that there's areas of improvement, but we make it happen. I would like for us to continue to invest in our high-quality programs and our staff. We are expanding the CTE Center. We built a new high school. We partnered with the PGA. We have ensured our teachers have the support that they need, and we're continuing to make sure that they get support that they need. I would like for us to enhance our public communication. We have started that process through our community-based accountability system and our community input nights. We're doing pretty good. We need to recognize the good. Even though we know that there are areas of improvement, we need to recognize the good as well. We're not the best school district in the state of Texas for no reason. Our teachers are amazing. Frisco's great. With that being said, I hope that everybody does well. I wish everybody well. And I want to thank my family for being here, and I want to thank the other board members that are here, and the teachers and our former leaders of Frisco.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for all 3 candidates. Place 2 for Frisco ISD Board of Trustees. Thank you guys for being willing to step up. We are now going to take a quick break, and we're going to bring up our place 3 candidates. Thank you guys so much. Good luck. As I said before, hopefully no tie votes, okay? That's all. May the best candidate win. No tie votes. check. Sure microphones are on at the right time. We'll make certain double check everything.
You want us to test them right now? Is that what you're saying?
Just be aware. Just be aware of turning them on and which way is on and off, and we'll go from there. So, yes. So, all right, we'll go over all the rules here, and we'll get going. All right. Very good.
All right, we are ready to roll with the place 3 portion of our forum tonight. Thank you for joining us, Dustin Paschal, Timothy Soto, and Stephanie Elad.
It's actually a lot.
Elad.
Very good.
Apologies.
So, thank you, guys. Thank you. It's been a good night so far, and we're wrapping up with place 3. And we're going to go over the rules here very quickly. Everybody will be giving opening statement of 1 minute. Your timekeeper over here is Anika. She's been doing a terrific job, but she will bring the cowbell on you if necessary. So on 1 minute responses, she'll give you a sign at 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and then a stop. Your closing statements will be 2 minutes. Once again, at a minute, 30 seconds, 15, and stop. And we are going to have 2 challenges that you can use. They have been getting used so far. It's been interesting. You want to
Yes.
go over those rules?
We do need to stick to the structure of the challenges. So the challenge is you get 30 seconds to challenge your opponent on something they've said, ask them a question. They will get to respond for 30 seconds, but it is not a debate style back and forth. Each person gets 2. So if you then wanted to challenge the challenge, by all means, if you have some left, you may do that.
And there will be no challenges during opening statements or closing statements. So, any questions on that format? Then let's go ahead and get into this. We're going to use a very technical system here for deciding the opening statements. We will draw a name, and then closing statements will go in reverse order.
All right, Stephanie, you're up first.
1 minute opening statements.
Good evening. Thank you very much. My name is Stephanie Elad. I appreciate the opportunity to participate tonight. I was born and raised in Southern California and moved to Frisco 9 years ago. I was promoted in my job, and the job was here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We ended up selecting Frisco as our home when we relocated to North Texas due to my job promotion, and we selected Frisco because of the reputation of the schools. Everywhere we went, all we heard was that Frisco ISD was one of the best school systems, if not the best school system in North Texas. I'm a mom of 2 Frisco ISD students, a senior who'll be graduating in a couple weeks here, and also a 5th grader. And I've also been an HR professional for over 20 years. I've mostly worked for Fortune 100 companies, and I currently oversee talent management, talent development, and engagement for a national financial services company. I've also been a college professor at the university and community college level in my past. That was a while ago. But I did it for about 8 years after receiving my master's degree, and taught public speaking and interpersonal communication.
Thank you very much. Next.
All right, next up we have Timothy. You have 1 minute.
Oh, that's right. I was waiting for the bell.
That's the stop talking bell, not start talking bell.
Hi, I'm Timothy Soto. I lived in Houston for a long time, and then I got married and have a beautiful wife and a almost 4-year-old, and my 2-year-old just had his birthday party Tuesday. And my 4-year-old, she's amazing. She likes to beat me up. If we had him first, we'd probably have 10 more, but we had her, so it was, no, thank you. I graduated from Oral Roberts University, and then I got my master's at the University of Houston. And we wanted to move to Frisco because of the high numbers and because it's so expensive to live here and we can't afford it. And so, real quick to get in here, to get into Frisco, we actually used a picture of our kids in our letter of submission with our number, and they gave it to us. We actually moved into Coach Secord's old house. They moved out, and they gave it to us. Of course, we had to pay for it. But we are. It's just awesome to be here, and I came from Cypher ISD, and so I'm very familiar with big school systems. So,
Very good. Thank you.
that's the bell.
All right, and Dustin, your opening statement.
Dustin Paschal. I grew up here in the Metroplex, just down the road in Garland, Texas. Proud product of Garland schools. I went to Garland High School. Went on to Baylor undergrad and Baylor Law School. and I'm now an employment lawyer here in Frisco. Our firm is based here in Frisco. My wife and son and I moved to Frisco in 2018 for the schools, and I'm really running at the end of the day because I want to protect our public schools. I think they're valuable. I think it's what made me who I am when I think back. I don't come from a background of advanced education. My father was a firefighter for 30 years. He didn't go to college. My mom went to junior college and was an office manager. They're both retired now. My mom just a couple weeks ago. But college was not a thing in our family. And I was the first to go to college and then on to law school, and now I own my own law firm. And I attribute that all to the education I got in the public schools in Garland, Texas. And so that's why I'm running. Thank you.
I'd like to open it up here. We'll just go in reverse order again. Each of you or candidates earlier in the night have mentioned Frisco ISD is one of the top districts in the state, if not all over. There's the number one reason that we see that companies are moving to town, people are moving to town. Mr. Paschal, and then we'll run down the road. Do you still believe that Frisco ISD is one of the top districts? And if not, can you name some specific reasons as to why not?
I absolutely believe Frisco ISD is still one of the top districts. I keep hearing from folks in this race and from others that we're a district in decline, and I could not disagree more. I was just at a school board meeting where we spent an hour and 40 minutes going through recognition of students, both academic decathlon, ACT scores, SAT scores, fine arts, recognition, sports recognition. We are absolutely one of the top districts in the state. We are a model for other districts, particularly even with the virtual education that we set up here in Frisco. Texas Education Commissioner Mike Morath himself pointed to Frisco ISD as a model of that for other districts. FISD continually serves as a model for our state. It is an excellent district, and I hope to keep it that way.
Mr. Soto, is Frisco ISD still one of the top? And if not, can you name some specific examples as to why not?
Oh, it definitely is. For a lot of the reasons that he's pointed out, it's all out there. It's no secret that that this ISD is fantastic. First, it starts at the top. Renee and John, the president, vice president of the board, they've had to deal with a lot that was trying to bring this district down, and they just continuously, I don't know where they got the energy from, but continuously fought to keep it strong and protected and provide funding and deal with legislation and say, whoa, fighting for the school district. No one knows that they're doing that no one sees it, they don't get paid for it. And that is just awe-inspiring, and I'm looking to help protect and provide funding for our students because, it is the jewel of Frisco, and we want to keep it that way.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ms. Elad, same question for you.
Yes, so my family has been a Frisco ISD family for 9 years. And the first few years, it really was great, and we couldn't believe our luck. And then we started to notice some things over time, and I do think that there are some things in the district that are of concern and that need to be addressed, and that's part of why I'm running. It's actually one of the main reasons why I'm running is to address those things. There's a lot of great things in the district, but there's also some problems. We have a teacher turnover problem. We've had over 600 teachers left Frisco ISD last year, and that is a concern. We cannot continue to teach our students if we're not able to retain our teachers. I just learned about a week or two ago that we have one elementary school that will be losing 18 teachers this year. That is a crisis. That is a situation that needs to be addressed. We have to make sure that we're retaining and keeping our teachers here. And it has been said that this is a statewide problem and this is a national problem. That is true, but it's also an issue here in Frisco when we have teachers who are leaving for other neighboring districts such as Prosper, McKinney, Allen, et cetera.
So this is,
If I have a challenge, how are we handling that? I just go ahead and jump on in? Or
raise your hand, that's fine.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
there you go.
I actually have a follow-up there for Ms. Elad on that point. When I announced my official candidacy, part of that was understanding there was a teacher retention issue, so I met with Dr. Linton, the head of HR for Frisco ISD. And with teacher retention being a critical issue for your campaign, I think the top issue in your campaign, My question to you is, did you also meet with Dr. Linton to find out what the district is doing related to teacher retention and to find out where there are holes, where there are achievements, and how that could be achieved? So did you meet with Dr. Linton?
I met with teachers. Because teachers are the ones who are leaving. And I've worked in HR for 20 years, and so I know what good HR looks like. I know what not so good HR looks like. And what the teachers were telling me was that they were leaving because of issues related to their work environment. And I asked them, do you get a chance to give feedback on your work environment? And they said, we're asked to fill out a Google Doc and put our comments on there. Other people can read them. They're not confidential. And so therefore, we don't fill it out. I have talked to probably 40 to 50 teachers, maybe more. They have reached out to me. They cry on the phone to me. I've had 2 kindergarten teachers tell me that they are leaving after one has only been in the district a year, and she said she will not be returning in the fall. And then there's another one who said, I've been here 3 years and I'm not returning in the fall because I don't get support. My planning time is infringed upon constantly, and there are behavior issues in the classroom that I'm not given support by administration to address. So that's what they're telling me.
Thank you. Just a reminder, we're trying to keep it to 30 seconds on the challenges, but that's good. Thank you.
Okay, so school finance and accountability standards have long been hot topics in school board elections. What is your view on local control versus state control on those issues and some specific areas? So not talking broad topics, but specific areas that you would like to see changed. Mr. Paschal, we'll start with you.
Local versus state on accountability and assessments. I would like to see more local control there. I know Frisco ISD is working on the community-based accountability system. The idea is that that hopefully, much like the virtual learning, becomes a model for the state, and that the state looks at that and goes, you know what, that's the better route to do that. I serve on the FISD Legal and Legislative Committee, and particularly I'm on the Assessments and Accountability Subcommittee. And there's a lot of teachers on that committee, that subcommittee. And what they talk about is that while the assessments are needed, we've got to have assessments. The STAR assessment that we have right now is not great. It's a snapshot in time. It doesn't really measure what the students are learning. And more particularly problematic is the fact that it's used as an accountability measure for the district, and that's how we grade our schools, and it doesn't tell the whole true story of our schools. So I'd like to see more local control over assessments and accountability, and I think Frisco is leading the way in telling the state, here's how we can do that.
Thank you. Mr. Soto?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, so school finance and accountability standards have long been a hot topic in public education and school board elections. What is your view on local versus state control and some specific areas that you would like to see changed?
Well, the parents would riot if there wasn't a standard that was met, whatever the standard is. And we always go to the lowest common denominator because it's the easiest. And I like Frisco because it excels well beyond the state standards. You mentioned the STAR testing and how it's a snapshot. That's with every district across the state. The superintendent, Dr. Waltrip, was like, he spoke and he says, that's not good enough. We need to have our own internal standards, and it's going to be better. So then we're meeting the state minimum, requirements, but we're looking to expand and excel. All eyes are on Frisco across the state. I mean, the numbers are saying it. People can't even move here because it's so there's not enough space, and we're expanding so strongly and so fast, and that is we don't need state. To comply with the state when we're going so far beyond it, and internal accountability is already strong because the numbers show it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Elad?
Yes, I'm definitely a proponent for local control as much as possible. I come from California, and they call those unified school districts there. And when I moved to Texas, and I learned that we call them ISDs, or independent school districts here, I thought that was the greatest thing I'd ever heard. I was very excited. I think, though, that in Texas, the Texas Association of School Boards has a little more control in terms of the direction of our local school districts in Texas than I would like to see, and I would like to see the schools be more independent, the school districts, including Frisco, and focus on specifically what it is that we need here in Frisco, because that's very different than what is needed in El Paso or Austin or those kinds of things. And one of the examples of that I've talked about a few times is how Texas is one of the school districts who has not left the National Association of School Boards, even though 20 other states did, actually 23, including California was the most recent one, after they referred to parents who speak up at school board meetings as domestic terrorists. And I think Texas needs to lead in that area, stop taking direction from the federal government, and give the local school districts back complete control over their district.
Each of you have undoubtedly received different endorsements from different individuals and groups. One of the most visible ones, it came from the Dallas Morning News. Mr. Paschal, in this case, they gave their endorsement to you. And we're going to allow all three of you to respond. Mr. Paschal, why do you feel that they gave you their endorsement? And then we'll follow up with the two of you to see, is there anything that you feel that they missed? Mr. Paschal.
Yeah, I think the Dallas Morning News recognized that Frisco ISD and the Frisco community is an important area and a leader within the Metroplex, because the Dallas Morning News didn't endorse in every local school board race. And so I think they looked at that and said, at the end of the day, Frisco is an important one, and they recognized, if you read the endorsement, they talk about what Frisco's doing, how Frisco is excelling, how Frisco's driving the development within the city of Frisco, and they talk about the importance of that and the value of that. And so I think they saw value in endorsing in this race because of that, and particularly with how they went about doing that. We fill out an extensive questionnaire, very lengthy, and then we do an interview that all three of us were on the panel interview together with a couple of folks from the DMN. And so they did their due diligence, digging into detailed, specific answers and asking follow-up questions. And so I obviously think they made the right choice here, but I think they saw the value in telling Frisco citizens who they should be voting for in this race.
Change it up here a little bit, Ms. Elad. Anything that you feel that they may have missed, or why you feel maybe you should have received the endorsement?
Well, I didn't expect to receive the Dallas Morning News endorsement, so I wasn't surprised. I think their political leanings kind of made their choice clear, and that's fine. I still participated in the forum because I wanted to get my message out. I also don't know if the Dallas Morning News really has a good grasp on what we deal with here in Frisco. I've been endorsed by several local organizations in Collin County and Denton County, and I'm prouder of that than I would have been to have the Dallas Morning News endorsement.
And Mr. Soto, your response to this question?
Yeah, I cannot think of why they wouldn't endorse me. I really can't think at all why they would endorse someone other than me. Hey, they choose how they choose, and that, good for them. They chose and they ran with it.
Very good.
Good for them.
All right, it is now the time where you get the chance to ask the questions. So the way that this works is you will have 30 seconds to verbalize your question, pick one opponent to ask the question to, and then they will have a minute to respond. So Mr. Soto, we'll start with you.
Okay.
So you get to ask a question. You have 30 seconds to say to which opponent.
Stephanie Elad. Hi. Do you have a plan in place, a tangible plan to provide for our teachers to have relief in the classroom, and also to bring in more teachers that will actually stay? A tangible plan. A minute, go.
Thank you. I guess I need my microphone. I do have a tangible plan. As I mentioned, I've worked in HR for quite a few years, and I actually oversee the engagement survey at my company, so I know what best practices are in terms of gathering teacher feedback. I do think we need to hire a third party, make sure it's totally confidential, because teachers don't feel that it is, and they're not giving the feedback. And we know that because they're leaving. So if they weren't leaving, we wouldn't really need to be worried about it. But I think we need to figure out what the top 3 reasons are that they're leaving, and a survey will do that. You want to not just ask the qualitative questions that people can, fill in, sentences, right? A paragraph maybe about what their concerns are, but you also want to ask questions like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to leave Frisco ISD in the next 2 years? That way you have a good quantitative sense of all the different concerns. Then what you do when you get those results back is you pick top 2 or 3 pain points for these teachers and you solve them. And you work with the administration and with the principals and with the leaders in the schools and you solve them. That is how you do that. That's how I do it in corporate America. I've done it for 20 years and we can do it here in Frisco ISD.
All right, Ms. Elad, your turn to ask a question to the opponent of your choice.
How do you know? Maybe I was going to ask you a question. You don't know. Actually, I will ask my question to Mr. Paschal. So you've mentioned as part of your platform that mental health support is a priority for you. What nationally ranked program that has proven successful in assisting with teen mental health would you bring to the district and why?
Are you saying what nationally ranked program is that you're saying? I'm not sure that I have a specific nationally ranked program. I think part of the job is coming in and evaluating and learning a little bit about it. But I think what we've got to talk to is the people that are in place and find out what they're seeing on the campuses, what they're seeing in the schools, and find out what kind of resources they need. I know I read an article recently that the state of Texas lags behind many other states in providing personnel in the schools for our children's mental health, and that has become problematic. We see that rising bullying and fights and things like that in the schools. And so there's definitely a problem with the state not providing the correct funding for that. And so I think what we've got to do is find out from the people we do have in place, hey, what do you need? What can we do to help? And then we go find out, does that involve going to the legislature and lobbying for further dollars for that? Does that involve hiring staff people here within the district? I know the district tries to do that already and hires people to fill some of the gaps there, but certainly more can be done.
All right, Mr. Paschal, your turn to ask a question.
I'm sorry, Mr. Soto. Ms. Elad, again, I know that on your website you talk about wanting to be a trustee for all students in the district, but I've also heard the rhetoric that's against equity and against the hiring of the diversity, equity, and inclusion specialist, and particularly on a recent radio program, I heard you express that you were concerned that Frisco ISD was becoming an urban district. And I'm wondering how you speak to the students that in a district that is majority minority and tell them that you will be a voice for all students.
I think in our schools we need to get back to focusing on academics and not talking so much about race. At one of our high schools, last fall, they did a privilege walk, and this is where I think all this discussion about diversity, equity, and inclusion unfortunately gets us. I'll read a couple of the questions. If you have visible or invisible disabilities, take one step backwards. Why would we ask students to stand up in front of classmates and ask that? One of the questions was, if you are a white male, take a step backwards. This is where I think the focus on diversity, equity, inclusion has led us. I can't imagine if one of my children was standing in that classroom, was forced to stand up. My family's Jewish, and one of the questions is, if the school doesn't celebrate your holidays, take a step back. My children should not be told to take a step back because they're Jewish and because the school doesn't close for Hanukkah. I will not accept that. There's nothing wrong with supporting all students and making sure they feel welcome, and we should absolutely do that, but not based on this kind of stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, I know in the interest of time, we want to get to closing statements soon, but given some of the discussion that has been going on in this race and others, I'd like to ask, starting with Mr. Paschal first and Ms. Elad and Mr. Soto, politics seem to be becoming more and more the issue in what used to be local elections. What are your thoughts on what does that impact have? Is that good? Is that bad for local races, and why?
I absolutely think it's a bad thing. There's a reason that municipal elections are supposed to be nonpartisan elections because it's about what's best for the locality. If we're talking about a city, it's what's best for the city. If we're talking about a school district, it's what's best for that school district. And that may cross party lines. Sometimes it may be a more democratic principle that a district is pursuing. Sometimes it may be a more Republican principle that a district is pursuing. But at the end of the day, the principles they should be pursuing are what's best for the students in the district. And so when you start bringing in politics, what you start seeing is what we've seen at school board meetings where business can't get done, where the example that we're giving to our children in the district is a very poor example. And that's what you start seeing when you see politics come into play. And the focus is now no longer on, are we doing the best for our students? But that focus is on, are we doing what's best for our party? And that's never the right thing when it comes to schools.
Ms. Elad, your comments.
Sure. So I have folks of both political parties supporting my campaign, including as financial donors, volunteers, and all kinds of other things. So I think that, yes, the school board races are nonpartisan, and I'm looking to represent all students. One of the things that my supporters are most concerned about is the middle school pilot that has eliminated differentiated learning in the name of equity, actually, and inclusivity. And I've had, again, folks from all sides of the aisle. I have yet to find one person, whether a Republican or Democrat, who thinks that's a good idea in terms of the parents in our district. So I think those issues cross party lines and are really nonpartisan.
Thank you very much. Mr. Soto. Yes,
Could you repeat the question? Sorry.
More and more partisan politics are coming into local elections, it seems. Do you believe that is good or bad, and why?
For Texas, that is terrible. No, we do not need that in any school district in Texas. Definitely not in Frisco. You know, I mentioned earlier that, you know, we're looking to protect the school district, and you do that by clearly, you know, keeping out any partisan activity or influence. We get that at home. Our kids come home and they hear their parents, they hear us talking about that president, this president, that person. Oh, the governor passed this. He shouldn't have passed that. And we talk about property taxes. And we talk about all those things. Let's let the kids learn, because when they get out of high school, it's going to hit them like a brick wall. You know, when they get their first paycheck, they start learning, hey, which side of the fence they want to lean towards or anything. So we definitely need to keep it out. We already have so much that we're trying to teach them. We don't need that in there. So
thank you.
All right. Well, we could do this all night, but we promised a deadline. So, Tony, I'm big on deadlines. We're going to go to closing statements now, and we have a reminder 2 minutes each, and we'll do it in reverse order of how we opened. So, Mr. Paschal, you are up first.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, the priority for me is public education and the 66,000 students that we have here in Frisco ISD. And I think a misnomer goes around sometimes about me because I'm so positive about our district, and I think our district is so excellent that I think our district is perfect and that we do no wrong. I don't believe I've ever said that, but I certainly don't believe our district is perfect. No organization is perfect. That's part of having an organization and part of operating is you've got to find where you can grow, where you can innovate, where you can fix things. And I think that Frisco ISD does a good job of that. We are always on the leading edge when it comes to innovation. You know, particularly we talk about this pilot program. I'm not sure that I disagree at the end of the day whether or not this pilot program is good. I'm not sure I disagree with that. It's still a pilot program, though. We're still examining it, and I think it's too early right now to say whether or not it's something that's got to continue. But I applaud FISD for trying it. They may decide at the end of the day that didn't work, and we're going to go back to separating those. But part of education is innovation. And so I value that Frisco ISD does that. But like I said, I don't think we're perfect. We can always address the issues we have, but the problem is we have to address those issues with facts, and we have to address those issues looking at what we're actually dealing with. What is the problem we're facing, and how do we go about solving that? We can't deal with those issues if all we're doing is expressing rhetoric and seeing who can yell the loudest at the end of the day. We've got to focus on doing what's best for our students, and at the end of the day, that's my goal, is to focus on what's best for our students, what's best for our parents, and what's best for our teachers and staff. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Soto, 2 minutes.
I definitely have super interest in our school district and protecting it. My kids are going to grow into it, and they're going to be developed by the teachers that are in the school district and future teachers that are going to be there. And we want to protect our students. We just got to protect. No one else is protecting them. We have to protect them from all the outside elements. And I am looking to join the efforts, join forces with Renee and John, and represent the district to legislation. Like, we need more money for our schools. We need more money for our teachers. We need more money for tech. Wes and Tiffany, who run the FISD Plus, they need more money. They have some pretty good ideas. I've listened to them, and the innovation that is just ready to burst. We need funding to do that, and I am looking to also help balance our budget to make sure that we're not spending too much on renovation when we can help, Beth with the early education, our 3 and 4 year olds. We want to provide more money for that, and we definitely have to, sometimes you do have to yell loud, and you do have to get loud and fight with the Texas legislation and say, we need money. Look, this is the standard. Frisco is the standard, and treat us that way. If you're going to say we're the standard, then you need to go ahead and fund us. Put money where your mouth is and fund our schools so that we can continue to grow the way we're growing and be the standard for the rest of the districts to look at. All of the other districts, people don't know, all the other districts are on the edge of their seats. All the superintendents are looking at Mr. Waltrip, Dr. Waltrip, and saying, what are you guys going to do next? Because everything you guys do works. And so that's what we want to provide for the rest of them, and make a better community in doing so. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Elad?
Thank you. Last fall, my older daughter took a dual credit class at Collin College, and after the first test, several other dual credit students went up to the professor and asked when the retest was, and the professor looked at them and said, "This is not Frisco ISD." That was really tough for me to hear, I'll be honest. That was really hard for me to hear. And I'm here tonight as a parent who wants to ensure that our children are prepared for a life after Frisco ISD, whatever that path may be. Parents have entrusted this school district with the awesome task of educating our children. That's a really big deal. And the community counts on our school system to reflect the best of Frisco. This year, there are 8 candidates vying for 3 places on the school board. I think that's a statement. 600 teachers leaving last year, I think, is also a statement. 50 unfilled paraprofessional positions in the district is a statement. The dramatic rise in parent involvement and parent input is a statement. Parents and students expressing concern about the pilot program in 8 of our middle schools, eliminated differentiated learning, is a statement. And the involvement of our state representative to highlight an issue of obscene materials in our school libraries is a statement. And I think the statement is that our community, our parents, and our teachers need to be heard, and they're ready for change. I am the candidate who can bring solutions, and I have the experience to lead in this area. There is much to be proud of in Frisco ISD. I know, I've been in this district as a parent for 9 years. And my message is one of hope. Our students, our parents, our teachers, and our community members deserve that. But it is time to listen and take action, and I promise to do that. My experience as a parent and as an HR professional make me uniquely qualified to serve in this role. When you need someone to speak for you, I will gladly and proudly serve as your voice. If you're ready for change, please vote for Stephanie Elad in place 3.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for all 3 candidates in place 3, as well as all of our candidates in all 3 places. Just want to thank everybody. If you guys don't mind just staying put here, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. It's been a very interesting, lively evening, but want to thank everybody for being willing to step up and serve the Frisco ISD. That's the key measure of everything here. I want to thank my partner here as moderator as well.
Thank you.
So, also want to thank our chamber team that's been busy and helping to put this thing on. Once again, this will be available for replay, so anybody here, spread the word. We wanted to get as many people out as possible, and I forgot to mention it early on, but a huge thank you, Grace Chruch Frisco here for providing this facility. Please thank them. It is always reliable, a great deal there, and especially a big round of applause for our timekeeper, Anika, did a marvelous job there keeping everybody in line.
Well, we have some important dates to rattle
Yes,
off, don't you think?
we do.
Okay. So as a reminder, early voting for this election, April 25th through the 30th, and again on May 2nd and 3rd. Election day is May 7th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And Tony has a very